downstairs to sit.
Who's in the back row? Or he wants to just start?
Whatever you feel here for this press conference. On behalf of the people who are fasting for the freedom of Leyla Zana, I thank you for your participation. We have a few members of Congress here who would like to say a few words, and I think we will move forward in that regard right now. I would like to introduce Congressman John Porter. He's also my spouse, and he has been someone who's cared about human rights all over the world, both in terms of the philosophical and real approach to people oppressed through his work at the Human Rights Caucus, but also as a person who's concerned with long-term research that improves the lives of people as they live. John?
We're here today to announce that over 150 members of Congress have joined in solidarity with one of our colleagues in Turkey, Leyla Zana, to demand her release from prison. The case of Leyla Zana, an elected parliamentarian who is imprisoned for voicing her political beliefs, is an affront to democracy and to the values that we hold dear. I continue to be appalled, but I have ceased to be amazed at the lengths that the Turkish government, which is supposed to be a democracy, will go for the purpose of silencing its critics. We've come to expect this type of behavior from China, Nigeria, Iran, Burma, Sudan, Iraq, Cuba, and other totalitarian regimes, and our government has often criticized them for it. But Turkey seems immune from U.S. criticism. Our president and administration say that we cannot be too hard on Turkey because they are our friend and ally. I believe that this is absurd. It is because Turkey is a friend and ally that we should criticize them. Our silence does not go unnoticed in Turkey and in the international community. Our hypocrisy in dealing with Turkey has clearly weakened our credibility and our moral authority in dealing with other regimes that abuse their own people. The events that have taken place in northern Iraq in recent weeks have further convinced me that we have pursued the wrong course with Turkey. I firmly believe that Turkey feels they are able to attack civilians in another country with napalm and cluster bombs, as they are doing right now, because we have let them get away with it at home. Because we and other nations have for so long ignored the manner in which Turkey treats its Kurdish population, we have emboldened them to carry their campaign of terror across borders into other nations. There is no excuse that my government or the Turkish government can give me which will explain away what is happening in northern Iraq today. I'm calling on all members to sign on to a letter to Madeleine Albright, which Congresswoman Furse and I are circulating, calling on the Secretary to condemn and work to stop Turkey's illegal and immoral actions in northern Iraq. I'm also calling on my colleagues to speak out from the floor of the House of Representatives against this egregious behavior. The community of civilized nations cannot tolerate this type of behavior in its midst. Jailing parliamentarians, torturing journalists, censuring artists, attacking civilians with napalm. The time has come for the American people to ask themselves what kind of ally Turkey is. Is this the kind of ally we really want to have? Let me add a personal note at the end. We have a group of Kurds who are here today who are standing for the last 11 days, fasting for the release of Leyla Zana. They are showing the kind of courage and commitment that all of us must have to this cause. Can we really, as a democratic nation, stand by and watch an elected parliamentarian be jailed, given a 15-year term for simply speaking the truth in a country that calls itself our friend? I think, and we commend each of you for the stand that you're there are hundreds of members of Congress who stand with you, and we will see this thing through and do everything we possibly can to see that Leyla Zana is released.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Congressman. I would now like to call on a man who's been steadfast in support for the Kurds through the years, someone we can always count on to be there to do the right thing. He's a genuine friend and a wonderful humanitarian, Mr. Torres.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for those kind words. And again, I want to convey my solidarity with you, especially because I've known you for so long, and you've been on top of these issues, and you continue to stand with your colleagues in a most trying period. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, colleagues and friends, and the courageous people who have been fasting for the release of Leyla Zana and other elected Kurdish parliamentarians who are currently arrested in Turkey for exercising their rights of speech on behalf of the Kurdish people. I'm proud to join my colleagues, as Representative Porter just mentioned to you, 150 of them now signing this letter to ask the President of the United States to intervene on this shameful detention of duly elected representatives of the Kurdish people. I have placed my name on a letter to President Clinton, which asks him to raise the issue on the imprisonment of Leyla Zana with the Turkish authorities. And just the other day, as we met in the Appropriations Committee, the Foreign Operations Subcommittee, we took some issue with the whole comportment of the Turkish government and the impact that will have upon them on their appropriations for foreign assistance. While we were not able to do anything at this particular subcommittee markup, I can tell you to rest assured that the next one around we will be taking some very serious concerns on our assistance to the Turkish government. In solidarity with my colleagues, the signers of this letter, with you, I am urging the President and his advisors to pay close attention to the issues that motivate those who are fasting here and have gathered with us today. They're courageous people, and all of us should look towards you as a kind of example of the sacrifice that people are willing to make for a just cause. I've asked, as Mr. Porter has said, the President to instruct the Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, to raise Mrs. Zana's case and the case of the other imprisoned Kurdish parliamentarians with the Turkish authorities, and to seek her and their release. I urge the Turkish authorities to take steps to release the democratically elected representatives of their Kurdish citizens. And I honor the integrity, the conviction, and the conscience that all of you here who have undertaken this effort, this fast, if you will. And I wish you strength in your continued efforts. Pray that the eyes and the ears of my colleagues and that of my President as well will be open to your pleas. I am proud to be part of your efforts to free Zana, Leyla Zana and her colleagues. And once again, Catherine, let me give you my utmost thanks and gratitude for the tremendous work that you do for us. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Over the week, and they're determined. Today, we move to the Capitol steps versus sitting under the trees over there. And any members you can get to come over and say hello would be appreciated.
I will bring them.
Thank you. Now, it's my pleasure to call on Representative Elizabeth Furse. She has been a champion of human rights and is someone I look up to and admire, and everyone associates with strong and good causes. She's a moral force. She is a dynamo, and we thank you for all your support. And we'd love to hear more.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I think that those same words are words which describe you. You are a moral force and also have been a great light on this issue. It is a huge pleasure to see my friends here, friends who have been fasting, and I'm reminded of my childhood in South Africa when other friends did that too, to free South Africa. You will prevail. Your cause is strong and you will prevail. And so all of us should today be standing with you in solidarity of Leyla Zana. It's been many years now that I've been aware of her case and have tried to bring that forward. It's too long. We've got to change that. As you know, we have sent this letter to the President. It has been signed by 156 members. Now that may not sound like much, but let me tell you, in this body, to get 156 of our colleagues together on an issue which could seem frightening to them because they don't know, they haven't been there, but they take the word of Catherine, of Congressman Porter, Congressman Esteban Torres, and we can do that. I want to say today that Leyla Zana was put in prison for doing what I am doing today. She stood and spoke about human rights as a duly elected parliamentarian. I could be in Turkey arrested today for doing what I am doing, which is representing the people who elected me because they expect me to speak out on issues such as human rights. I'm also completely appalled that this country, the United States, spends millions of dollars supporting Turkey. We say that Turkey is our ally. Well, it is. We say that Turkey is our friend. Yes, it has been. But we should not support a regime to the extent we do that jails and tortures duly elected parliamentarians throughout the world. It is known that a parliamentarian may speak on issues such as human rights. That is their duty. It is something they must do. And yet Turkey has violated that bond between a constituent and an elected representative. And we in the United States continue to support that government. Well, we have got to stop. I have spoken to Ambassador Bill Richardson about Ms. Zana, and I want to read from his letter to me of October 15th. In it he says, and I quote, "Ms. Zana's case is one of 4 convictions which are being appealed to the European Human Rights Commission, and the Turkish government has stated publicly that will respect the Commission's decision," end quote. I look forward and I continue to hold the Turkish government to that promise. They cannot be rogues in this world. They must be held by the legal and human rules that govern all of this planet. So I look forward to them doing what is right, and I look forward to working with the great Kurdish people who have stood in solidarity with their elected representative. I would wish only that my constituents were as strong, as brave. I think they are the best constituents in the world, but you are an example of standing for the rights of elected people to express their views as we are today. Thank you for what you do, and we will be there with you.
I think it's time for us to hear from Connie. Connie is really the one who has brought the attention of the Kurds to the Congress, the person who's really stood alone against some formidable odds, against some people who have tried to silence him. I've been happy to stand alongside him to answer those critics. But what he's doing now is noble, and I think it's going to really make a great difference. And Connie, I would love it if you would make it good.
Dear representatives, dear friends, dear Kurds, on behalf of my fasting friends, it's my pleasure to thank you all for coming here. I'm here to thank especially the four members of the United States Congress, President Furse, Honorable Porter, Esteban Torres, and Frank Holt for initiating this congressional effort to receive Leyla's immediate unconditional release from the Turkish prison. Of course, I would like to acknowledge the staff of these wonderful representatives. They are respectively Louis Wiegman, Kelly Curry, Eric Peter, and Ann Hiskins. Thank you. You have brought excitement and hope to Leyla's life. You have become a symbol of freedom on our sides. It's rather ironic that I stand before you today to thank you for an effort to free a woman who, for addressing another body in this Congress, received very happy that 152 other representatives have joined this effort with Leyla Zana. In that freedom lies the hope of millions of Kurds and the will of 42,000 Kurdish constituents. We, 4 Kurds and 2 Americans, who are on our 11th day of fast, want to add momentum to the effort to free Leyla Zana. We wish to see the people's choice. President Clinton be cognizant of another choice that was made by the Kurdish people. Our suffering is for the restoration of the democratic choice in Turkey. We will continue with our fast to fund this building with the hope that as we lose strength, champions of human rights will gain the upper hand to offer freedom to Leyla Zana and bring some sort of sanity to a corner of the world known as Turkish Kurdistan. We want them to prevail in the debate with the Turkish interlocutors who seek to contain Leyla Zana in a jail cell and condemn the Kurdish people to perpetual war. We are drawn to this place because Leyla Zana is a duly elected representative, and also because it was here that President Wilson announced the right of the subject peoples, such as the Kurds, to self-determination in 1917. The dream endures. We want to see this country honor its 28th president and side again the political destiny of the Kurds. Thank you.
I'm going to read a letter from Leyla Zana. It's from October 6th, and it's to the 4 members of Congress who initiated the Leyla Zana letter. Dear friends, with some excitement and great appreciation, I have just found out about the effort you have undertaken on my behalf in the United States Congress. For years now, the Kurdish people have been struggling against great oppression to regain their dignity and identity. Like the other peoples of the world, they too would like to have the freedom to speak their language and to carry on with their traditions. They long to express their political identity. In Turkey alone, there are some 15 to 20 million Kurds, a figure admitted by the Turkish officials, and yet the democratic aspirations of this constituency have met with blood and tears. Unfortunately, the state of affairs continues to this day. This way of thinking has plunged Turkey into a war that is now 14 years old. The ceasefire efforts on the part of the Kurds to pave the way for dialogue and peace to this day have gone unnoticed. To this end, I view my imprisonment as synonymous with the freedom of my own people, and I consider your efforts to discuss it in the halls of your Congress very important. I am touched by your spirit of generosity. Neither my people nor I can ever forget your efforts. We will always remember the gesture with respect. Your initiative, while uplifting our morale, is also of the utmost importance to the democratic process in Turkey, the peace activists, the scientists, writers, artists, and the politicians who favor reform. They feel validated and strong. On behalf of my fellow imprisoned parliamentarians as well, please accept my warmest greetings and gratitude. With kindest regards, Leyla Zana, my birth father. Why you're doing this, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, I didn't really prepare a speech, but I'm doing this because I feel that as an American, I can bring more people will notice, and Kurds and Americans together participating in FAST as a symbol of solidarity between the Kurdish and the American people. Myself, I have family that is Kurdish now. I have married a Kurdish man from Turkish Kurdistan. And forever this will be part of my life, and I want the people of America to realize the importance of this issue, not just of Leyla Zana, but of all Kurdish people. And I feel that it has too long been ignored. I just want people to open their eyes the way they have opened their eyes to many other peoples who are struggling for their of freedom. And that's why I'm doing it.
I know that a number of other members of Congress are trying to stop by, and I would welcome any statements from anyone else who would like to show solidarity with the fasters. I know Mike Amate it would be great if he could come and stand with us and say a few words. Okay.
I'm Mike Amate. I'm the director of the Washington Kurdish Institute, and I've followed this issue for quite some time. And I just want to commend Connie and the other fasters for bringing this issue to the attention of Congress and the American people. I think it's amazing that more than 150 members of Congress have signed a letter on behalf of Leyla Zana to the President. I commend the leadership of Catherine, of Mr. Porter, Mr. Torres, Elizabeth Furse, and the other members of Congress who have taken the lead on this issue. And I echo what Congresswoman Furse said about the tragedy being compounded by the United States' continued willingness not to question its relationship with Turkey. If human rights is discussed with the Chinese premier when he's here, human rights should be discussed at every meeting, high level or low level, with Turkish officials. Congresswoman Furse said that the United States does millions of dollars of business with Turkey. It's in fact billions of dollars of military and security assistance, which is used directly by the government to suppress the Kurdish people. It's just mind-boggling to me that if Turkey is in fact such a close friend and ally of the United States, how we would let this close friend and ally essentially drive itself into the ground because of its lack of real democracy and its lack of understanding of the complex issues that play into the Kurdish situation. My admiration for Connie has existed since he came here and started working on this issue. I think that this particular case of Leyla Zana and the 3 other members of the parliament who are in jail is a case that our Congress should be completely outraged about. As people have said, it's unthinkable in a democratic country that members of parliament who are elected by their constituencies cannot state their, cannot speak on behalf of their constituencies. So I think that speaks to the level of support that this letter has received in the Congress. But it's so important for this message to get through to our administration. Our State Department remains, their official position is, well, Leyla Zana was convicted of a crime in Turkey and we can't interfere in the internal affairs of an independent judiciary. It's quite clear that the judiciary is anything but independent in Turkey. But beyond that, again, the simple question of democracy has been raised by this very clear breach of free expression in a parliament, no less. And I was at the briefing where Leyla Zana and her colleague appeared at the Helsinki Commission, and if there was a crime committed in that briefing, it certainly, I mean, how can it happen like that? But anyway, I'd like to again just thank Connie and everybody who has brought this issue to light, and I just hope that our government will see the light at some point, and you've certainly done much to illuminate this whole issue. Thank you.
I think Mike really put his finger on the frustration that we've all felt with the intransigence of U.S. policy in terms of Turkey. We've tried everything imaginable, talking to friends, trying to influence people in other ways, trying to bring the facts out. There's no press coverage in the southeast of Turkey. There's no press coverage now on what's going on in Iraqi Kurdistan. And it is out of frustration and tears that we decided to take this endeavor, to take this fast. And I'm disappointed that I am not able to fast the way these people are fasting. I am a diabetic and I'm eating one small meal a day and trying to monitor my blood sugar and still stay able to talk now and then, which is always a problem for me. But Mike really has worked on this issue for years. He's been so helpful. And we just seem as though we are up against a brick wall. If we can marshal the kind of forces that the Tibetans and other in China have brought together, we can turn this around. The two regimes are very similar. If you stop and look at our approach to them, they're very similar. And it's time that people in the administration, people inside the Beltway, realize that people out there in our country, ordinary people, care about human rights, care about what happens to Leyla Zana, cares about what happens in Diyarbakir or Sulaymaniyah or Winnetka, Illinois. These things are interrelated. It's time for us to speak that way, to unite as one voice as we have with this letter in order to bring some real change. But we need everyone's help. A dear friend, a dear champion of human rights around the world, I've worked with in many different contexts, is Bianca Jagger. Her heart is strong, it's open, it's warm, but her mind is so sharp. She is a beautiful package inside and out. She's done a lot to help us, and she stopped by this morning to offer.
I stand here and I want to say what I said yesterday at the rally to denounce the fact that President Jiang was giving the red carpet treatment. And what I stressed then was that human rights, justice, and freedom are universal for all men in all parts, everywhere. And I must say that one of the things that really saddened me is to be, I was in the first press conference with these very brave men and women, and to see the indifference, the lack of interest that some issues present to people. Why is it that sometimes we stand for the rights of some groups of people, and then there are others when we remain silent and we don't think that they are sexy enough, as the media will call them. So I stand here to say that the Kurdish people are the Kurdish ethnic group, are the largest ethnic group in the world without state, that they are being persecuted in Turkey, Iran, and Iraq, and that we cannot remain silent and be part of this repression and the atrocities that are committed against them. These 4 men and 2 women, including Catherine, who are doing this fast, with the intention of going all the way through. I am sure that the attention of the media will only begin to be awakened when the health will be at risk. Is that a way for us to be a nation who really believes in human rights? No. That's what I stand here to ask you. Please, let's do something. Leyla Zana do not deserve to be in jail because she came to speak in the U.S. Congress about the plight of her people. And Turkey is an ally of the U.S., and the administration of President Clinton should be doing something to make sure that the Kurds receive and have protection of the rights, just like any other person in the world. He did speak yesterday, and I think it was in part because of the pressure that all the human rights community made about human rights. And I was so happy to hear him say human rights are universal. Well, yet again, I'm here to say human rights are universal, and the Kurds deserve to be respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for our fasters or our speakers. I'm sure they'll be happy to respond. Oh, Bianca. Well, would you like to say anything, Kelly?
I just do want to mention that we are circulating that letter about the law and about the openness of the moment. So this that's another issue by the media and by our administration.
Yeah. And it's being overlooked.
My name is Ron McNamara. I'm on the staff of the Helsinki Commission, chaired by Senator D'Amato, and our co-chairman is Congressman Christopher Smith. I had an opportunity earlier this year to visit Leyla Zana and the other 3 colleagues of hers in their prison in Ankara. The first group that was allowed to visit her in over a year. That was part of a delegation of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, which Congressman Steny Hoyer, our ranking minority member, has been a very active member as a vice president. I should indicate that earlier this week, Congressman Smith and a number of the colleagues from the Helsinki Commission, including Mr. Porter and Mr. Hoyer, introduced a resolution, HCON 179. What's happened as a bit of background is that Turkey has asked that it be the country to host the next OSCE summit meeting, of heads of state or government of the 55 OSCE participating states. And it's the view of Congressman Smith and the other colleagues who have signed on thus far that there's a privilege and prestige involved in hosting a meeting that would include the President of the United States, among others, and that a country that has been an OSCE participating state since 1975, after all, President Demirel was a signer, and I believe the only signer of the Helsinki Final Act who is still in power today. And when our delegation raised the case of Mrs. Zana and her colleagues with him directly, he basically said, "My hands are tied." And that was repeatedly the response that we received from the Turkish authorities whenever we raised Leyla's case. And the delegation repeated its call for her unconditional release as well as those of her colleagues. And it's an issue that we will continue to press forward with at the Helsinki Commission. So it would certainly send a very powerful message if those members that signed on to this letter to the President and Secretary Albright would become co-sponsors of this resolution, sending a very strong signal that Turkey is an important country, it is an ally, but that we don't ask anything more from the Turkish authorities than the commitments that they have voluntarily entered into as co-signers of the Helsinki Final Act and other documents of the OSCE. Under those circumstances, and only under those circumstances, where their implementation of these commitments is in line with the commitments that they have undertaken, should the United States consider giving its consensus to the Turkish proposal to host this summit.
I'm going to mention something that's probably really impolitic on my side. 2 years ago, about this time, I delivered to President Clinton a letter from Abdullah Öcalan, who's the head of the PKK. The letter talked about a unilateral ceasefire and a renouncement of violence. This letter was circulated to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to on this issue. That the lives that are being lost every day in Turkey and now in Iraqi Kurdistan are as a direct result of our deadly indifference. And I think it's time that I spoke out on that a little bit more, and would happy to answer any questions. But we have a wonderful friend who's worked with us on so many different issues, Neil Abercrombie. Would you please say a few words?
Well, good morning, and aloha to everyone. I hope that you'll take this morning's opportunity to take heart as well. Last night, you know that there was a stateless dinner here in Washington with respect to the state dinner being held for the President of China. At that event, I had a moment or two to offer a toast. I want to repeat what I said there, essentially, that often these matters of human rights are characterized by those who are suppressing them as being questions of internal matters. That is to say, that we as human beings have no business, political or otherwise, in engaging ourselves in them. Well, I have never considered, in fact, I have been unable to reconcile at all, and have no desire to reconcile, the idea that the legitimacy of any political regime is dependent upon the torture or murder or suppression of another human being. Any regime which has as its foundation the coercion and suppression of others, particularly manifested in the dehumanization, degrading of another human being, cannot have legitimacy, cannot stand the light of exposure. And in this instance, it is clear, I think, at this stage, that while there are many political difficulties, transnational political difficulties, that no hardships of negotiation and political activity can in any way, shape, or form justify the suppression that is now taking place with respect to the Kurdish people. In this, what we have, and this I think is equally important, is the expression through an individual. You may know that there is a process underway now of adopting various prisoners in Tibet. For example, Amnesty International has done this for years, and it has been very effective. Part of the reason it's effective, I may be repeating things other people have said, but I learned in my political life as well as my personal life, it's the obvious you need to say over and over again, because it's the obvious you tend to take most for granted and forget first. Many people in the room may be familiar with the situation, but we cannot expect that other people are. And so we have to retain our enthusiasm, if you will. We have to retain our commitment, because we have to educate and inform people, not only in this country but around the world, as to what the circumstances are. We need to be very, very important to put forward continually Ms. Zana's name, because it helps to not just individualize to the exclusion of other people who are suffering, but rather to personify for those who may not be familiar with the situation in a way, personifies the situation in a way that will illuminate it for those who are not familiar. So, in this particular instance, you will find a certain irony, a sad irony, that we're competing for attention in this week because of the circumstances associated with the arrival of the President of China and the emphasis, particularly in the world of popular entertainment, on doesn't lessen our commitment. What it means is that freedom is indivisible. It means that the suffering of human beings under politically repressive regimes is indivisible, and that we're all united in this. And I'm certain then that not just myself, but all the members who are associating themselves with the activities underway presently with regard to Ms. Zana will manifest their commitment to her and to all those who are suffering. I can assure you that as island people, as a diverse society, as a society which has undergone evolutionary political, social, and economic changes, as a society which defines itself rather than divides itself as a result of its diversity, that we're particularly sensitive to and empathetic toward the Kurdish people. We are a multiplicity of people in the islands of Hawaii. And as I indicated and want to emphasize to you, there are two choices, really a choice to be made when you have a diversity. That is to define yourself or divide yourself. And we have chosen to define ourselves that way and have had the opportunity to do it. Therefore, I can assure you that whatever I can do individually, whatever members of Congress can do collectively to aid and assist the Kurdish people in achieving their measure of justice and opportunity for themselves, you can count on us. Thank you very much.
I think you made an interesting observation about the island peoples. In some ways, Kurdistan is an island. It's an island in the sky. It's mountainous, and I think that's an interesting analogy. But your support means so much to us, and you'll find us beginning today out on the Capitol steps in the little section. So any members that you could bring by to see us would be greatly appreciated. I would now like to introduce a man who's been very helpful on these issues and someone that we can call on in difficult situations to stand upright and say the right thing and do the right thing. A man of action, Congressman Steve Horn.
Thank you very much, Ms. Porter. She and her husband are equal to about 100 members of the Congress. I can assure you they have always been on the right side of human rights for a very long time. And they not only speak in favor of human rights, but they go where there's danger and observe the violations of human rights. I have felt strongly about the Kurdish situation for about 25 or 30 years. I was former vice chairman of the United States Commission on Civil Rights for 13 years or so, and been active in drafting with a team of bipartisan people the 64 Civil Rights Act, the 65 Voting Rights Act, and I commended President Carter, who continued me, even though I'm a Republican, on his commitment to human rights. And that, however, started in the Congress. You should know Don Fraser of Minnesota is the one that really originated that thrust. President Carter picked it up. And I think every president, to some degree now, realizes that that has to be a major factor in American foreign policy. And I think what happened to the Kurdish people when we let those helicopters keep going is just a disgrace to this country. We should have reversed that order. And it was absolutely tragic what happened to you when we presumably gave the Iraqis the right to use helicopters simply to carry messages or something back and forth. And of course, the first thing they did was kill Kurds and kill Shiites and anybody else that was against Saddam Hussein. I've known a number of Kurds for many years. You're an extremely bright people. You have professionals that rank with any other country's professionals, and you were the largest group of people in the world that are without your own country. And why some of these people don't give a little is far beyond me. But I would hope we can keep the pressure on the president. You saw how many signed the letter for Kurdish parliamentarian that was in the parliament. And last year we welcomed here several Kurdish parliamentarians who had been expelled from the Turkish parliament. And we want to do anything we can to encourage the movement, and without violence, I might say. I think Gandhi was right when he took the nonviolent route in India. That shocks people into action much more than if you can say, well, gee, they killed us, we'll kill them. That's gone on. I'm half Irish, so they often say about my Irish ancestors, they're the only group in the world that puts up a sign for every battle they lost. And they've lost a lot of battles over 800 years. Gandhi won that battle by simply taking a different philosophical approach. And while one has to defend oneself, one is assailed by superior force. On the other hand, if you're trying to build a coalition, get worldwide attention, and certainly the attention of this country, Martin Luther King followed that, and he followed it with great success. We had a majority to pass the Civil Rights Act of '64 before Martin Luther King in the House. For years, they could have a majority there. We ran into problems with the Senate with their right to filibuster, and 18 Southerners could tie us up for 1 year, and they did. But eventually, we prevailed, and it was Martin Luther King and people in the streets in a nonviolent manner that helped build that consensus, build that backing of the media in this country, and it changed America. So I would hope the Kurdish people, in bringing forth all of your concerns, would follow that bit of advice. And all I can assure you is one member of 435 House members that I will be glad to help in any way I can. So I wish you all well, and thank you for coming. We have a conference right now, so you're going to see all the Republicans next door here. So.
Be nice to my husband.
I'm always nice to your husband. He's one of the nicest people I've ever known, as are you, Catherine.
Are there any other statements from anyone else like to? Jamal Fouad, who's been a longtime friend and certainly a strong advocate for Kurdish people everywhere.
Mrs. Porter, members of the Congress, my dear fasting friends, I think we are here to say our solidarity, keep our solidarity with the Kurdish people. Leyla Zana is but one example of what has been going on in Turkey: unjust jailing, unjust torture, unjust deportation. At this moment, Turkey has gone beyond its normal boundaries to another country, northern Iraq, Iraqi Kurdistan, where it has been bombing using very unlawful weapons, weapons of mass destruction, cluster bombs, napalm, killing civilians. At this moment, all these are going on, and we don't have a single line of coverage, neither from the State Department nor from the press, because talking about Turkey is a no-no issue, because Turkey, as said many times, Turkey is our friend, and we cannot say anything bad about it. I think it's about time to clear this in very black and white letters, that Turkey is a fascist regime. Turkey has gone away from democracy, is far from being any country that needs or deserves respect. I just wanted to say these words to indicate that as Turkey has deported over 2 million people in Turkey itself, destroyed 4,000 villages, is now doing the same thing in Iraqi Kurdistan, which has crossed the borders, unlawful international behavior. Thank you very much.
What is ironic is that these things are being done with U.S. military material. Our tax dollars are being paid in order to disperse villages for extrajudicial killings and for torture. How long can we stand? How long can we stand for this? It is outrageous behavior. part of a government now of Turkey and in part of our own government. I think I'd like to close by using that Thomas Jefferson quote that when I think of a just God, I shudder for my country. I think of a woman like Leyla Zana, a woman who has to work so hard in any part of the world to have her voice heard, a woman who stood up and said what she knew to be true, a woman who is now serving a 15-year sentence. It is shameful. It is shameful. We are going to do a couple of other things. As we've had time to sit and talk, there are a couple of other things we're going to do in addition to this. We're not just going to sit around and waste away. We are growing stronger in our determination, and certainly by the show of strength that we have had from the Congress. We are going to do a similar approach that Anita Elantos and I started in the Congressional Human Rights Caucus some time ago, and was reinstituted again last night with adopting prisoners of conscience. We're going to begin doing that with Turkish prisoners to see where we get along those lines. And secondly, we're going to have a continual vigil. We're not sure where, but we're going to have a continual vigil so that people in Congress will be aware and have a place to turn to in order to seek information. And the third thing, I'm sorry, I'm a little dizzy right now. The third thing is the most important thing. We are going after a total cutoff of funds to Turkey. No military, no economic, no nothing. And I think there's enough support within the Congress to do this. I'm tired of trying to play the game and be placated by the administration. It's time for them to wake up and be counted or pay the price. And I know that we're building a large group of people who will be with us. And we'll need all of your help. We'll need all of the NGOs working together. We did it once before, we can do it again. And I thank you all for being here, and please come and visit us on the Capitol steps. Most of all, I thank our fasters and their commitment. Connie, do you have a few last words? You know, I just thank you all for being here. I know. Well, we have a letter going now demanding an immediate meeting with Albright about it. Feel free to hang out there too, because there are 2 telephones in the lab.
Yes, it is, 152, I think it is, yeah.
One of these. Dear Leyla, my name is Bianca Jagger. I have done twice the press conference, and I am here because I want you to know that there are those among us who believe that human rights are universal, that it cannot be selective, that the rights of people all over the world should be respected in the same way. And we cannot understand, and we stand here to protest your imprisonment, and we will do everything until you are free again. I want as well to speak to the Kurdish people and tell them that we know about the suffering, that we stand in protest about the atrocities and the repression that they are suffering in Iran, in Iraq, and in Turkey. And we cannot understand why President Clinton's policy supports a government that violates that right. But we will not rest until we will be able to release you out of jail, as well as the other 3 parliamentarians, and that we will do everything for people to know the plight of the Kurdish people. Thank you very much.